Today, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret that it seems to be skipped over very often. Is that thumbnail that I made for this video right here? This is actually not photoshopped at all. Well, other than doing it in Photoshop, the actual pieces of gear, they're legit. So we'll go to the helmet and the shield, and you can see the helmet right here, 20 plus 2, and then the shield is over here at 20. Now this can easily be glyphed up to 20 plus 2 as well. Now, looking at that first look, you may think, okay, well, it's the same stats. Well, it's a 6-star helmet versus a 5-star shield. And you hear all the time, and I say it as well, that 5-star gear eventually comes a point where it's just going to be pushed out of your account. However, there's a little bit more nuance to that. So when it comes to gear and the rolls, you can see this between all kinds of different stats. Let's go to accuracy pieces, okay? This piece has 9 accuracy though, okay? So the shield at the bottom has 9 accuracy. It's a 6-star piece of gear. I went ahead and filtered this out to just 6-star pieces of gear. The very bottom one, 9 accuracy. Let's come to the top of unleveled pieces of gear. And this one has accuracy of 10. You guys can't really see that, but 10 there. We have 12 there. Okay, so still a 6-star helmet with 12 accuracy. I should have moved my webcam, but we have 12 accuracy on there, 6-star helmet. And at the bottom, we have 9 accuracy. So where is all this RNG coming from? Now, at first look, okay, well, a little bit of accuracy difference, that's not a huge deal. However, you think about that, okay, 12 times, say you got a triple roll, well, 12 times 3, actually it's 12 times 4 because the beginning stat as well. 12 times 3, let me show you what numbers this makes, not 7 trillion, but 12 times 3, that's gonna be 36 versus 9 times 3, that's gonna be 27. So that small point of accuracy difference, if you were to level it up every single time and it was to continually hit that 9 accuracy each time, that's going to give you an accuracy of 27 on your champion. Whereas if it max rolls, which is what it's called each time, it's going to be 36 accuracy. That's a pretty big difference, especially when you start expanding it across all your champions, realizing that every piece of gear has this stuff played in. And when you consider, hey, 5-star pieces of gear could actually be as good as some of your 6-star pieces of gear, depending on how they roll. Well, what am I talking about with this whole rolling stuff? Well, come over here. I'll show you guys the substat roll ranges for all the gear in the game. Now, this doesn't have the mythical pieces calculated into it as well, but essentially what you can do is just add the rolls numbers here to the max over on the far left side, which is a quad roll, min, and max. So looking at this, you can see that a quad roll piece of gear for speed has a range between 25 and 30 for a 6-star piece of gear. So you can see it in my account, I actually have some quad roll pieces of gear. Let's go ahead and show them off real quick, because whenever I got a chance to quad roll, or whenever I got a chance to show off a quad roll piece of gear, I want to take that opportunity, right? So here we go. Let's go to the weapon, helmet, and shield. Priority stat speed. We have a triple roll there. My quad rolls are equipped. So we have a Rotos with a quad roll weapon, 30 speed, quad roll speed. This one right here, let's see, a quad roll speed from Ancora. It's 27 speed. Now, that doesn't seem like a huge difference, but when you're pushing maximum numbers of speed, that definitely adds up. So 7, 8, 9, 10, we have 3 difference in speed plus the plus 8 glyphs. So it does add up over time. And this isn't even the worst speed you could get. The worst speed you could get is 25. Well, you spread that across multiple pieces of gear, and now all of a sudden you have a champion who's 10, 15, 20 speed, even less than what they could be possibly. So if you had, you know, your weapons, okay, each one of those roll 5 less, that's 10 speed, assuming everything quad rolled, that's 10 speed less there. We have 10 speed less from the shield and the chest plate, and an extra 5, and then the banners, same thing. Banners have the same roll ranges, so you're looking at a champion who has 20 speed less, even though you have quad roll literally everything. All right, guys, so I'm editing this video, eating a chicken patty, and I realized I said that this piece has, you can be 20 speed less. If you low roll, that's wrong. You could actually be 30 speed less because 5 speed less, 10 speed, 20, wow, math. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 on the banner. Boots don't have substat speed unless, of course, you don't have speed main stat, but that's beside the point. So you could be 30 speed less, not actually 20 speed. 20 speed would be 4 quad roll pieces that all low roll, which is not necessarily likely. But either way, jump back into the video, guys. I just wanted to fix that in this editing. This is where you dive into even more gear optimization in min-max. Now, that level of min-maxing isn't important for most players, but the thing I want to emphasize and get across to you guys is that 5-star gear, specifically top row pieces, I'm gonna talk about that more in a little while, isn't always an instant sell and may be worth rolling up because it could max roll and actually be a pretty solid piece for your account. So looking at some of these substat roll ranges, you can see at the top, it has a breakdown between all the stats essentially. So HP, defense percentage, attack percentage, accuracy, resistance, we have speed, crit rate, crit damage. So for a 6-star piece of gear, HP percentage, you have a roll range each time you upgrade a piece of gear. So for example, we come in here, let's go to a piece of gear. Where is it at? This helmet right here, just a random helmet. We're gonna go to upgrade. So these are the stats, 7%, 6%, 6%. We're gonna upgrade it one time. Try to remember these stats, but so 7% up to 13%, that's a 6% gain. While it didn't max roll, it did do a pretty decent roll. Let's go ahead and do it again, see if it hits somewhere else. Okay, 6% to 12%, so a 6% gain, which over here for the attack percentage was both mediocre rolls essentially. This is the main thing people are gonna be looking at: speed, crit rate, crit damage, accuracy, and resistance. So accuracy and resistance actually has a pretty significant range, especially if you consider this across, all your pieces of gear. It's also the biggest difference I'd say comes from crit rate, hitting those specific crit rate numbers. And this is where I'm gonna say that 5-star gear isn't always bad for an account, because if you look at the min and max rolls for crit rate on a 6-star piece of gear is 25 to 35%. That's a difference of 10%. Whereas if you look at the difference on the 5-star piece of gear, it's 20 to 30%. So you can see this is a quad roll. Let's look at a triple roll for a little bit more relatability, I guess. A triple roll 6-star is going to be 20 to 28%. A triple roll 5-star crit rate is going to be 16 to 24. So a triple roll crit rate on a 5-star piece of gear can actually be better than a triple roll crit rate on a 6-star piece of gear that low rolls each time, because the difference between these is pretty high at 5 to 7%. So you have a 2% difference each time you roll a piece of gear. You can see that as you're leveling stuff up, a 5-star piece of gear can actually be better than a 6-star piece of gear when it comes to things like crit rate, crit damage, and even accuracy. Let's take a look at this on some actual pieces of gear that I have. I haven't searched this yet, but let's see if we can find something. So we'll go legendary, crit rate, priority stats, crit rate high, and let's go to undo the set filters. So for this case, I don't have any pieces where the 6-star piece is equal to or less than the 5-star piece, but I do have some right here, which is 21% for a triple roll on that weapon. Actually, let me go ahead and do you guys a favor and actually move myself. There we go. So 21% there, whereas the shield is 22%. So it's a 1% difference. Now, that doesn't get into the fact that whenever you have a 6-star piece, all the stats are going to be better. So eventually you do want to make sure you're moving into as many 6-star pieces of gear as you can have, because the stats are just going to be more flat out across the board compared to 5-star pieces of gear. But it does mean that when you're looking at 5-star pieces of gear, don't necessarily sell them just because it's 5-star, especially the top row pieces. I'm going to get into that more as far as the bottom row pieces, but the top row pieces could be, especially in good high quality sets. Like for example, this lethal piece right here, it's a triple roll crit rate, 20%. And we look back at this other page, you can see that a 20% triple roll could very well be more than a 6-star piece of gear if it triple rolls and all it goes pretty low, right? So 20% all low rolls, it's going to be better than a triple roll 6-star. And of course, you look at a 6-star double roll and it's going to be better than that. It's going to be better than a high rolled double roll essentially as well. So you can have well rolled 5-star pieces, specifically on the top row, that could be worth more than a 6-star piece of a similar set. Now, ultimately, you do still want to look for higher stats across the board, but this is just to get the point across that each piece of gear you have, each piece of gear you get, while the stats may be identical, while the sub stat itself, like the speed, accuracy, attack, and all that kind of stuff may be identical, the actual percent that you're getting isn't necessarily identical. And even as you're leveling it up, it could be a decent piece at first, max rolls at first, but then you fully level it up and all of a sudden you just got max low rolls. And you've probably seen it happen before, and maybe you just didn't understand why your quad roll speed piece looks so low compared to the ones you're seeing online, where they're looking at 30 speed, which is the max, versus yours is sitting down here at a lowly speed of 25. I mean, 25 on a quad roll 6-star piece of gear doesn't feel that good when you could also quad roll a 5-star piece of gear that also gives you 25 speed. Let's jump into why I believe that. Actually, not why I believe, why 6-star gear on the bottom row is so important. Well, the top row, you're getting static main stats, always the same. So weapons always attack, helmets always HP, and shields always defense. With that said, you can actually go in here to the fitting room, look at the artifact type, and scroll down and see what all the possible substat rolls are for each piece. Because you can notice that weapons, they can't roll defense or defense percentage, whereas shields can't roll attack or attack percentage. This is something really important to know, because if you're looking for a shield with attack percentage, you're not going to find it. Also, you can't have the same substat as you do main stat. So for example, while a gauntlet could have crit rate, if it has crit rate as the main stat, it can't have crit rate as a substat. I did a post recently where I had a pair of crit damage gloves and somebody said the best substat would be more crit damage. Well, you can't actually have that. You cannot have the same main stat as you do substat. You can have the same ascension though as you do main stat or substat. It's getting a little bit more in the weeds of things, but moving on to why 6-star bottom row pieces are so important is because bottom row pieces with the variable main stats, you're looking at a pretty big drop of a stat that could be most likely easily replaced. Now, it does get into more detail, more finer details, because I do have some champions that have 5-star crit damage gloves on because they're in a specific set. That's more complexities to it. But in general, a pair of gloves at 6-star is 80% crit damage. You look at the same pair of gloves that are instead 5-star, you can see that now instead of 80% crit damage, you're looking at 65% crit damage. You're looking at lower maximum potential as far as the ascension, the oil as well. So 13% versus 20%. A chest plate is going to be a difference of, for a attack champion, 60%. Well, let's look at a chest plate that has attack percentage at 5-star. It's going to be 50%. So 50% versus 60% may not seem like a huge difference, but let's see what the actual numbers break down to. So Ray, for an example, is a champion with pretty low attack. Let's look at a better attack-based champion. Let's go Sun Wukong, okay? So 1,500 base attack is what the stats scale off of. It scales off of their base attack or base HP, base defense. Crit damage is just an additive effect. But for the chest plate, let's go 1586 times 0.6. It's going to be an additional 951 attack from a 6-star attack percentage chest plate. Whereas if you go for 1586 times 0.5, it's going to be 793. That's going to give you a difference of 158 attack. 158 attack added up on your chest plate, added up on your boots, if you're going attack percentage boots, becomes quite a bit of attack that you're losing out on. Not to mention the fact that if you're ascending the stuff, you're getting an extra 20% attack, a 7% difference between the 5-star piece. Same thing for the gloves, you're getting higher overall stats. Whereas the top pieces, the main stat, a 5-star weapon is going to be 225 attack. A 6-star weapon is going to be, let's see, attack. 6-star weapon is going to be 265. So it is definitely still a difference. However, the difference isn't as staggering. It's still a difference. You still want to be mindful of that. But the subsets you're looking for, the crit rate, the speed, the crit damage to actually finish out your build, is potentially going to be just as valuable as if you found a 6-star piece that actually low rolled those stats. Now, there does come the decision you have to make, okay, well, I'm looking for lethal. I have to sacrifice and get 5-star pieces in lethal because even if I have a 6-star piece that's better than this, I still have to finish off the set. So it's not so black and white as to, hey, you don't want to have any 5-star pieces of gear in your account. It is more complexity and more layers to it, but you will notice the majority of my champions that have 5-star pieces of gear equipped, I actually have quite a few champions like that, but it's oftentimes on the top row pieces, never, if I can prevent it, on the bottom row pieces. And the accessories, they're pretty easy to come by, so it's always 6-star pieces, except for the fact if I'm having like a unique set on there. But look at champions like Gwendolyn. She doesn't have any 5-star pieces on the top. She actually does have a 5-star pair of gloves, but that's just because it rolled pretty well. It made sense for the build, so I threw it on there. Ideally, it'd be 6-star because it'd be more crit damage, but I just couldn't fit it in the situation. My Rotos, he has all 6-star gear. My Heffrak has a 5-star weapon. It's a quad roll speed. Quad roll speed here, 24 speed, is actually relatively comparable to a high rolled speed, triple roll speed on a 5-star piece or 6-star piece of gear. Comparatively, okay? So quad roll 5-star speed, max is 25, he got 24. It's actually pretty close to a quad roll speed that low rolled at 6-star. The goal at the end of the day is filling out your champions with the stats you need. It's typically 100% crit rate. If you're going for crit rate, it's good speed, good accuracy, and the rest is really just pushing your damage numbers and your survivability. So you want to make sure that you're getting the most of the crucial stats as you can, which are speed, crit rate, crit damage, resistance, and accuracy. So keeping some 5-star pieces on the top row that have those stats is not going to hinder your progress, as long as you're being still strict on those 5-star pieces. They need to roll well. They need to roll high. If they roll low, well, they can be easily replaced by 6-star pieces as well. But just something to keep in mind. I want to get this video out to you guys today. It's a little bit longer than what I expected, but thankfully I moved myself over so you could actually see it, quarter way through the video. Probably halfway through the video actually. But with that said, guys, hope you all enjoy that. Let me know what you think about that gear stuff. Like I said, next week I plan on diving into gear a little bit more in depth and doing some gear cleansing on my own account, but we'll see how it actually plays out, see what gets done. With that said, guys, I love and appreciate all of you. Best of luck in your gear cleansing journeys and your gearing journeys in general. It's probably the most important part of the game, honestly. With amazing gear, you can go really far. With amazing champions, you can also go really far, but amazing champions with crappy gear is worse than amazing gear with mediocre champions. Granted, if you have not good champions, you really can't do much either. So it's a little bit of a mix of both either way. Guys, thank you all for watching. Love and appreciate you. And I'll catch you in the next one.